Can I just say your full name, spell it, and what your position is?
Nimrod Chappell, Nimrodchapel, Jr., President of the Missouri State Conference of the NAACP.
So death penalty has been kind of a controversial topic for many years. You're kind of debating the weight of the crimes that these people committed, while also, one of the quotes that was said today was Missouri needs to stop killing people to show that killing is wrong.
Yeah.
Could you just explain that a little bit?
Well, absolutely. I mean, whether we approach it from a moral sense or whether it's just is this fair and is this just and transparent approach, I think that we've seen in Missouri that its application of the death penalty hasn't been right for a very long time. The American Bar Association, which was combined with some retired judges and I believe then sitting judges, recommended that Missouri actually institute a moratorium until we could get a handle on our process. We have statistical evidence that shows if you're a person of color or if you're a person who is poor, just to be very candid and blatant with it, your chances of getting the death penalty are greatly increased for the same crime that other people are still walking around or in prison for. That's not fair on its face. We know that Missouri has huge issues with its criminal justice system that have yet to be reckoned with. We just saw another, prosecutorial mistakes that have gone forward and been allowed to hide evidence to make sure that people receive a punishment that they really don't deserve. Now, this is the ultimate punishment. I think that morally we as a society have to take a stand on that. That's up to each individual. But when you can't even make it work pragmatically, to say that we know that we're killing someone who's guilty and that person is going to die in the way that we anticipate, suffocation, such in the case of Russell Bucklew, is not one of the ways that Missouri is sanctioned to kill people. It's supposed to be lethal injection, but instead he is predicted to die a very horrible death.
Or do you know who Mr. Bucklew is?
I have not spoken to Mr. Bucklew.
Are we arguing at all of his guilt? I mean, are we recognizing his guilt? We just don't.
I think that in this case we are. That in some cases with the death penalty, it's not a question of what happened during the process or if actually are we right, like with Marcellus Williams, right, where there's evidence that could exculpate, that could take him away from the sentence of death that's been imposed on him. In this case, it's a different thing. This is a humanitarian issue. And I think that that's what actually got the issue of the international community when they say, Missouri, please don't execute Mr. Bucklew, because after that we're going to have to come and do an investigation to determine whether your state has committed an international crime. You shouldn't kill people in his state, right? And I think that everyone would recognize that regardless of the culpability, that there's some people that you can't execute because of the nature of their physical condition. Okay? And he is one of these people. He won't die as anticipated, that you simply fade away. This will be a cruel and inhumane death, literally gurgling and dying on your own blood.
Does it mean anything, or does it hold any weight that this case was taken all the way to the Supreme Court and they ruled that the execution should still stand?
Well, only that they didn't get it right. Yeah. So now Missouri is going to be known as the state that found the lowest common denominator in how you kill somebody, right? In an execution. I mean, that's the bottom line of what it's going to be. We're creating a new floor for the least humane conditions that you can execute somebody. What we're doing is not right. I don't think there's anybody that says that it is.
Have you tried to
There have been meetings with the governor about this case and others. Governor Parson and his staff have allowed those meetings to go forward. We don't have any determination as to what's going to happen. And like we said, even with Marcellus Williams, we're happy that the panel is reviewing his conviction and his sentence on death row, but we're still waiting on word. There's a man sitting on death row that ought to be a productive taxpayer, get back to his family and society. No, it has. Yes. And while we're grateful for every day that he's still alive, being alive in those conditions, when it's unjust, it's not fair, it's not based on his conduct, and there's evidence to prove that, I think that Missouri can have a better result than that.
People might argue that one of the defenses of the death penalty is that it provides closure for the family, and it's kind of eye for an eye. Is that a valid excuse in your opinion?
No, I know. And I think that, just being here today, there are many victims of murder whose family members have come forward and said, don't do this. We don't need this foreclosure. And we know that it's not a societal deterrent. Look at the murder rate that's going on in St. Louis and Kansas City, and even rural Missouri for that matter. It's almost as if murder has become passé. Well, how does it get that way? We normalize it, right? The only other thing that we could do with the state-sanctioned execution, such as Mr. Bucklew's, or any other for that matter, would be to show it on TV. Right? Why not live stream it if it has that effect? The truth is it doesn't. Everybody recognizes that this is gross, that we as human beings shouldn't be killing each other, and I think most of our faith traditions preach that too.
If the execution stays and it does end up being this horrible, grotesque death that doctors have predicted, what's next? Is there something that's next?
Oh, sure, for Mr. Bucklew?
No, just the whole process. Does this get bigger?
It does. As I understand it, there will be an international inquiry as to whether Missouri has violated human rights laws by executing a man in Mr. Bucklew's condition. So that's what I think's next. I think Missouri will have another spot on the international map of reasons not to visit Missouri, or not to be here, quite honestly.
You mentioned, we talked about closure just a second ago. Has the victim's family said that they prefer this not for closure? Or has anything been said about that?
I know that I haven't talked with the family, and so I prefer not to say.
This crime happened 22 years ago, in 1997, and one of the main purposes of the prison system is for rehabilitation and for people to pay their dues. Does this killing someone represent a failure of that system?
Well, absolutely. And if anything, a critical junction for that organization. For the Department of Corrections to recognize that there are some people that are not redeemable. And if we say that it's not in the department's hands, we say that this is the people of Missouri making this choice, then I ask, where's the proof? Where's the evidence that this actually works? The only thing that this will do is prevent Mr. Bucklew, who I think everybody admits is in no condition to be of any other harm to other people, and from doing anything further, right? You can have that same result by keeping him in prison, or I would suggest even by letting him out with his physical condition that he's beyond the capacity to harm other people. That objective has been met, but not through any rehabilitative purpose or desire from the state.
Thank you for your time, sir. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.